Next one is another bad situation for Nigeria and Nigerians. Talking about the presidential jet being impounded. What an embarrassment. What a disgrace. What a shame on Nigerians and Nigeria as a nation. For how long shall we continue to take this disgrace from the so-called president Bola Tinubu? He disgraced us in Qatar. He disgraced us in Dubai. He disgraced us in South Africa. Now again, another disgrace that our president's flight was impounded, was seized. Whoever had that? I don't get it. You see, I've said it before, that the global community does not respect Nigeria's president. They treat Nigeria current Nigeria president the way they see him, the way they view him. That's exactly what is happening. Tell me, who could have done this thing to someone like Obasanjo? What crazy country could have done this to someone like Obasanjo? For God's sake. Tinubu, no one respects him because they know he's a criminal, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the world is concerned, as far as his records are concerned. He's a criminal, so nobody respects a criminal. They have dossiers on him. They use that to blackmail him, so they treat him anyhow. What, for God's sake, why would you? I don't get it why Tinubu is rubbishing Nigeria this way. That he traveled to France on official visit to have a meeting with the French president. His plane and 2 others were seized. Although even I heard that they have released it.
You are getting it wrong. He is yet to travel to France. The jets were there for the normal checks. One of them is for configuration. That is the new jet that was bought. We have discussed that for 13 billion. That is one of them. It's there for configuration. So that is the one they have now released for him to use to have his meeting with the French president.
But I read a report somewhere. Initially, that was what I thought. But I read a report somewhere, a very brief report, somewhere that they said that they have released the jet for him to attend, to meet with the...
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Initially, 3 of the jets were impounded. But because he was going to meet with the French president, they released the new one that he bought, the presidential jet that he bought, the new one, which was for configuration, for him to attend the meeting with Macron.
Honestly, I thought it's in France, and because the flight was impounded in a different state, that you need to. Okay, all right.
So they were parked in 2 French airports. 2 of them were in one airport. The other one was in the airport. So the court granted an order to impound them based on arbitration proceedings.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
That other one was released to him so that he can use it to attend the meeting with the French president.
Anyway, thank you very much for correcting me. I'm sorry for that omission. A commission rather. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a blunder. All right. Sorry about that. Anyway, my point is this. Whichever way it is still a shame that our presidential fleet or flights, excuse me, will be impounded, will be seized, for God's sake, on a foreign land. Why did the government allow that to get to that level? It was an arbitration issue, or it is an arbitration case. That arbitration case, the government lawyers or the lawyers representing the government, didn't they see this coming? They should be, they were supposed to have a kind of an intelligent report that this thing is coming. You people should have to preempt it. That is the problem we have with this system, this government, the ineptitude and lack of the incompetence of this the incompetence of this government is just, it's really, really, the loudness is really, really deafening us. Shegun.
All right. I'm not surprised anyway. If you read the story further, you will realize that the money that was borrowed to purchase these aircrafts was not borrowed directly by the federal government of Nigeria. It was for the federal government of Nigeria through the Ogun State government. And we were jokingly, for the past 2-3 days now, we've been joking that I don't want to identify with any Ogun State person, so that when the Chinese come for their money or come to arrest any Ogun State man, they don't arrest us and say, you are also from Ogun State. Then you start to beg. And be begging Barrister Manta to come defend you in court. You see, you look, I don't know if is there any other word that is worse than embarrassing. You know, we are a shameless bunch of people, where you have leaders who go about borrowing money. Probably they think this money is free, and they think the people who borrow them this money will not take into account the fact that they are spending this money lavishly. If this government had any sense, if there's anybody in this government that had any sense at all, they will go and look at some of the countries that are borrowing. I think it's Rwanda now. No, not Rwanda. Rwanda is doing well. One of those East African countries, I think one or two of them, borrowed money from these Chinese people, and the money was used, and they couldn't pay on time. They had to take over some part of their business, like the shipping industry was taken over by the Chinese, and some cities were controlled by the Chinese. You know, and you find a Chinese man flogging a black man on the streets in his own country. It's sad. It is sad. It is embarrassing. Even if we pay the money today, honestly, it is embarrassing because it's on record that we're owing.
Let me correct a point there, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
This issue relates to a contract between Ogun State and a Chinese company called Zhongtang Fengcheng Industrial Investment. In 2007, during the governorship of Benga Daniel, they entered into that contract with the Chinese company to create a free trade zone. And Ogun State gave a 99-year certificate of occupancy to the Chinese company and gave them 22,000 hectares of land. Now, the Chinese company, in reality, all they did was just to fence the area. That is the only thing they did. When Ibikunle Amosun came to power, he now revoked the contract. And that's what triggered the arbitration. The arbitration started since 2016, involving the Chinese company and the Ogun State and the federal government. The federal government was brought in because in 2001, the federal government entered into a trade pact with China to create free trade zones. So Ogun State was acting under that pact. So that is how the federal government came in. The arbitration awarded about $50-something million. Damages, interest, legal and arbitration fees, altogether totaling about $71 million. The Chinese company has sought to enforce that in several jurisdictions. It is an ongoing attempt, both in Switzerland and other places. In the US, they have been trying to enforce that by attaching the sovereign assets of Nigeria. Nigerian government have been arguing that our sovereign assets are not subject to attachment. It is something in the realm of public international law, where there has been argument for a long time about sovereign assets being immune from the jurisdiction of other countries. But there came another view that if the sovereign is in the marketplace, if the sovereign is coming into trade, then such trading should not be subject to immunity. So that is where you find the courts now giving, saying that, look, if you are the sovereign, you are supposed to have immunity, but when you go into trade, then you know you have lost that immunity, so your assets are attachable. The U.S. Court of Appeal currently ruled against Nigeria because the Chinese company also attempted to attach some assets of Nigeria in U.S. The Court of Appeal ruled, I think 2 days ago, that the sovereign assets of Nigeria were attachable because it was a commercial transaction. Nigeria is trying to study the judgment of the U.S. Court of Appeal with a view to appealing to the Supreme Court. Now, they have tried it in UK, they have tried it in Switzerland. In France, too, the same thing happened. And by coincidence, these jets were there in France in 2 airports, and the French court gave an order for the attachment of those jets. But coming back, it exemplifies the fact that we cannot put our acts together. It exemplifies the fact that things are done here in a lackadaisical approach. When the Chinese come to Nigeria, number one, when they are trying to do contracts with us, they do not allow our courts to have jurisdiction over that contract. It's either they will choose the Chinese court or the Western court, because they know that the West will always have bias against us. If there's judgment, if any commercial transaction of this nature goes to Western court, whether in US or London or Switzerland, you are almost always going to have a judgment against us. Not only that, the drafting of these commercial agreements are not vetted by qualified and competent lawyers, because we should not allow a situation like this. We cannot, Nigerian businessmen cannot go to China, enter into a contract, honestly, and say, okay, we want the jurisdiction of Nigeria, or we want, they will not agree with you. They will not agree with you. The same thing, you go to US now, enter into a contract with a US company and say, no, let's remove it from the jurisdiction of the US court. They will not agree. But they do not trust our judicial system, so they will not allow dispute arising from contracts to be settled by Nigeria. And that puts us automatically at a disadvantage. You remember the other PID issue that nearly bankrupt Nigeria. If not diplomatic and political consideration, that issue that rose up to $14 billion would have bankrupted our country. So this is following in the footsteps of that. Going forward, we should put our acts together. We should become serious. A state which is a federating unit doing an international contract has to liaise with the federal government, has to make sure very qualified and competent lawyers go through every inch of that contract to ascertain where the loopholes are that these foreign companies can use. This foreign government, the Chinese government, fully backs their companies that are doing business outside. And I will give you an instance. We had a problem in Nigeria with a company in Dubai. I was involved in the court case. Somebody went to Dubai, bought properties about $5.something million. Then he could not pay. He wanted his money back. They refused to give him the money. They sold the units of the house and refused to refund him the money. Wow. And the contract specified that if you want to sue, you sue in Dubai. Wow. And the man is here in Nigeria. So we had the problem of having to go to Dubai to go and sue there. You know what the problem is? Yeah, money. The traveling, the expenses. So we decided to try our courts here because we saw a loophole inside the issue. So we went to the court in Abuja and we were able to get judgment for the refund of the money. However, we did not see the assets of the company. It's a big development company in Dubai, the first group. We could not see their assets in Nigeria to attach. So we waited. When one of their executives came to Nigeria, we quickly got him arrested. The national is an Indian national, but he's a top executive in that company. It's a British company. So we got him arrested to intimidate them to come and pay. Do you know what happened? The Indian High Commission, the company and is a British company, the British diplomats overrode the country with pressure. The court was inundated with pressure and assault from Minister of Foreign Affairs, from our own government. and agencies until the court had no option than to release that man.
Wow.
And with the release, we have a judgment which we cannot execute because the assets are not here. So we ended up empty-handed. No foreign country would do that. They will protect their citizens who are doing business outside by whatever means. So that is one example. We have to put our house together. We have to put our acts together.
Yeah, thank you so much for that very, very elaborate explanation. Even though, honestly, I was actually why I didn't want to go the legal angle. Otherwise, you were the one I was going to ask you for. But I didn't. Honestly, I wanted to actually. My intention was just to talk about the disgrace, the political angle of it, and that's why I didn't want to go the legal angle of it. So, but anyway. You did that, but I appreciate that at least you've enlightened us on that, and that is good. Thank you so much for that. So yes, the thing is, this thing has been on for forever, actually, where our leaders they don't even, and that is the problem now. That is what Nigerians are facing abroad, because they say charity begins at home. It is they get this impression. Other the global community have this impression of the impression given to them by our leaders, and by that impression, that is what that trickles down to us as Nigerians in diaspora. They don't regard us. The moment you mention Nigeria, they just treat us like bunch of trash. And so that's the problem, because like you noted, our leaders, this didn't start from Bola Tinubu. It's been there for a very long time. Nigerian leaders never fight, never protect Nigerians. They either in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, never protect their own. Wherever they fight, honestly, that is the problem we are facing. Nigerian leadership don't protect the Nigerian business interest. Their personal interest, every kind of interest, honestly, and that's because they personalize everything just to curry favor from the West, from abroad. That is a very, very bad one. And the least, I think the best word to use here is our leaders are very, very unpatriotic, very unpatriotic. They don't support us. They don't help us. That's just the bottom line. Anyway, thank you so much, Barrister, for that elaborate explanation and the description of the topic we just trashed now. Okay, I think that being said, except someone else have something to chip on this, to chip in on this topic. If there is none,
yes,
go ahead.
I would want to. Yes, thank you very much, Barrister. I was going to come that way, but probably I wouldn't have been able to do justice to it with the way Barrister did justice to it. The truth about the whole matter is money exchanged hands. And from what I hear from the top, heads will roll. Well, whether heads will roll or it will not roll, we'll follow up to see how the story will end. Because how do you sign a 99-year contract and nobody would look at it, and you go ahead and whatever it is, whatever trade you're going to do, you do it under that kind of pact without taking a look at it? And why are we always signing these pacts without having a proper check? Like Barrister said, why don't we have a proper check? It is simply because people just collect whatever it is that is their share and tell you, am I going to be here in the next 10 years? Even if I'm not, let me just collect what I need to get and go.
That's the problem. That's why
the reason why we keep putting
that's why I made that statement. Our Nigerian officials or leaders, they just think about themselves, what they will gain from it. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Yes. They just think about what will go into their mouths and go into their pockets and fill their accounts. Nobody cares about anything. And we have it is easy because we don't have a country that defends the people. If we have a constitution, if we have a leadership, if we have policies, if we have laws that protect Nigerians, I'm not talking about people who do illegal businesses. How can you do a business with somebody and the pact will be signed in the person's interest, and you go ahead and sign such a pact? What kind of donkey business is that? It is crazy. And it is very easy for them to do this kind of business with us because they know we are corrupt. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, honestly, it's just unfortunate, honestly, that Nigeria is just where we are now. We are a country that is housing the most intelligent among the most intelligent in the world, the most brilliant in the world, the smartest. We have everything: human capital, natural resources to be among the global superpower. Among the global superpowers, yet we are rated or ranked among the third world countries. Not just among the third, even in the third world countries, we are down the line. Down the line. It's so frustrating, honestly, where you have everything you can think of in this life, every good resources you can think of in this life. Nigeria has it in quantum at our disposal, in sufficient, even overwhelming measure. Yet, everything about Nigeria is failure. So sad, honestly, so sad. And I don't see how we can actually continue this way. And that is why I've always been saying that we have to do something. We need to do something. Honestly, this issue of trying to manage the situation. You quoted Fela earlier in the show that no one wants to die. I have my mom at home. I have my kids at home. I have my my uncle, my this at home or whatever. So they don't want to. You see, we will keep. People will keep dying in this kind of state if we keep sustaining this kind of mindset. I am telling you, people will really need to. I understand it is to actually sacrifice. It's difficult. That's why that's where the name sacrifice came from. Sacrifice, of course, is something that is painful, that is unbearable. It's something that is not palatable. It's not something that you desire. Of course, that's why it's called sacrifice. And without that, you wouldn't have the word sacrifice. And as long as the word sacrifice exists, we should imbibe that. We should be ready to die for someone. That is my point here. Nigerians are not ready to die for anyone. That is where we are. It's about selfishness, not selflessness. We have to get to that point of selflessness. We've had countries where you hear one person out of frustration will just come out, and I'm not advocating for that crazy stuff, actually. Will come out and burn himself alive or whatever. Just pour gasoline on himself. But we have said, that one is, I don't expect that. That one is overboard. But what I'm saying, my point is, we should get to a point where we should be ready to die for the future of our children. We should be ready to die for someone. Everything doesn't necessarily have to be about us. It doesn't have to be about us, for God's sake. And because it has been about us, that is why Nigeria is where we are today. That's why we are where we are today. It's so unfortunate. Anyway, thank you guys for that take. And that takes us to the last topic of the day. Excuse me. Barrister,